Okay, so we'll just move on to the surrogacy panel discussion now. So on our panel today we have a group of lovely surrogates. I'll start with introducing Christy in the middle, India, beautiful yellow. So Christy's journey began nearly 3 years ago when she made an offer to her friends who had been struggling through IVF for years, offering them help by becoming their gestational carrier or surrogate. Christy's family already consists of 9-year-old twin girls and their 5-year-old sister, all conceived through IVF. After a seemingly never-ending process, Christy fell pregnant with a healthy baby in August 2013 and gave birth to Evie a month early in March this year. Amy, on the end, believes that giving up a child for adoption in her late teens was the start of her surrogacy journey. The adoption gave her motivation to one day become a surrogate and help another couple. Fast forward many years, marriage, 3 children, and her motivation finally became reality when she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl in October 2013 for a couple that she had met through the internet. Carrie Ann here on the first chair is a happily married mother of 3 children. She's employed as an adolescent and family counsellor and has always felt compelled to assist couples who could not have children. She's donated her eggs to 2 couples who between them have 3 children, ranging from the ages of 6 to 12. Carrie Ann became a gestational surrogate for a Sydney couple, whom she also met through the internet, and in February 2013 delivered a gorgeous girl named Violetta. Not stopping there, Carrie Ann is now 16 weeks pregnant with Violetta's sibling. Carrie Ann says that surrogacy has been an amazing experience, one that she has absolutely no regrets in doing, and feels very blessed to have been given the opportunity to be a surrogate. So I'll start with you, Carrie Ann. So your journey into surrogacy has been quite a long one, in that you originally decided to be a traditional surrogate using your own eggs, but you ended up being a gestational surrogate. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and the difference between traditional and gestational surrogacy?
It was several years ago we decided to be a traditional surrogate. We met a couple in Perth. We flew over several times. They flew to Sydney. After about 18 months, it didn't work for them, unfortunately. And they decided enough was enough, they had enough transfers. So then we met another couple from Mildura, and after 20-hour return trips in the car, I think they tried 5 transfers. And I also flew down several times before work, and had to work around at that time. And they were also unsuccessful. So I decided that they decided that if it didn't work after 4 goes, I'm going to buy a business instead, because they already had 2 children. So that's what happened. And we then decided that maybe an easier option, not that it's easy, that an easier option might be to be a gestational surrogate and use someone else's embryo. So that's what we went into.
So doing traditional surrogacy, did you go through the whole clinic process, or was it?
No, we didn't. We didn't do the process at all. It was home inseminations.
Okay, so Carrie Ann and Amy, you both ended up doing surrogacy for couples that you met on the internet. What was it about your intended parents that made you choose them, considering there's so many intended parents out there that need surrogates? What in particular was it about your intended parents?
The couple that we're currently working with had no other option. They couldn't go overseas because of the intended mum's medication that she's on. So they had to basically find a surrogate here in Australia. So that's why I chose them, because there were no other options for them.
And Amy, where did you meet your parents?
I actually met my OPs through another surrogate, and she gave me the phone number, and I called, and we spoke probably about half an hour about surrogacy and another 2 hours on everything else. We felt like we'd met and we'd known each other before, so it was never a question of whether I'd do it. We just felt like we'd known each other, and that was it. So.
All right, so obviously it's a daunting process doing it for a complete stranger. Did you have any concerns about it when doing it for someone that you didn't know? Were you concerned that they weren't being entirely truthful?
No, I think with most surrogates in any sort of situation, there's what we call red flags, and I think you generally feel them as soon as you just know something's off. And if you ask more questions, you generally feel uncomfortable and not go there. I never felt that with my IPs right from the start. So.
Okay. And Carrie?
I was the same. They lived only 45 minutes from us, so we could keep in regular contact. We got to know each other really well before anything happened. And there was no red flags, and we get on phones here to this day.
Okay, great. So Christy, your situation is a little bit different in that you're a surrogate for your friend. Did you offer to be her surrogate, or did she approach you?
No, I offered. We kind of knew the history of how long they'd been trying for, and we'd done IVF, so we knew that battle, and I might have had a bit of wine that day that I said, oh, I'll do anything. And yeah, kind of, that's how it came out. She certainly did not ask. It's all my doing.
Wine always helps, doesn't it? So we all know that there's certain things that can test a friendship and end in conflicts, and obviously due to the nature of surrogacy, this could be one of them. Did you have any concerns at all going into the process with a friend?
We didn't have any concerns. We had a counsellor who, I hope isn't here, who was very doom and gloom, and that's part of what she had to do, was to tell us all the things that could go wrong. And she said friends were the worst kind of surrogates you could have, and we were like, oh, great. But we were very much on the same wavelength the whole time. We always had been, and we talked about issues. Our IVF journey was, we knew that we
Would work.
the same. Yeah.
You get a gut feeling, I think.
Yeah, I agree. As you mentioned, there's red flags. Yeah. So, how did people in your wider friend circle and family feel about your decision to be a surrogate?
Our family and really close group found out fairly early on when we were starting the process. Just, we live in a small country town, and it just had to happen that way. Family were thrilled. They just thought it was amazing, wow. And then when I told the Melbourne family, because we lived in the country, like I said, I told the people back here, they were a bit like, thought I was in a cult, I think, or something. I'd moved to this town, and 2 years later I'm having a baby for someone else. Oh my God. But generally, everyone has been fantastic.
That's really good. That's really good. And as I already mentioned, Amy, you'd given up a child for adoption in the past, and people often view surrogacy like adoption. How did you find that these two ways of conceiving differed?
Totally different. I liken adoption more to traditional surrogacy because in the gestational surrogacy pregnancy, I didn't feel connected with the baby. Did you feel that? There's just no, like, people had asked me how far along I was, and I had to go to my pregnancy app to see, because unless my body was changing, I just forgot, I guess. There was no connection. I mean, you felt, yes, I'm nurturing a baby, but it wasn't your baby. Whereas with the adopted baby, he was part of me, and I had a difficult time making that decision, and I'd be in the nursery every night crying over him at the hospital. Whereas, I'd go in and see my IPs at the hospital and go, how was last night? Oh, terrible, we didn't sleep. Oh, well, good luck then. And I'd go off and I'd sleep, So, it's totally different. It's the connection, I think, you feel with your own pregnancy to, you feel more connection with your IPs than you do with the actual baby. And I actually see my IPs quite a bit, and I love baby Charlie lots, and I give her a quick hug and then put her down, and she's cute, but
And obviously afterwards you said, as you said, you see them a lot, but from your adoption it's more of a closed.
Yeah, look, legally adoption, he's 14 this year. Legally in Australia it's open adoption, so by law I am allowed to see him 3 times a year. When he was about 3, I met my husband, and we decided, like, his mother at the time, I talked to her and said, look, we're both having our own families now, and we just sort of went our own ways. And if he wants to come to me when he's older, lovely, awesome, I'd love to chat to him, but at the moment, we just went and had our own families. So
that's good. So obviously surrogacy in itself is a challenge, but Amy, you've been open about the fact that you've suffered from clinical depression since your late teens.
Yeah.
How did you feel that may have changed your experience of being a surrogate?
I wasn't worried about it, because I liken my depression to having diabetes or something like that. I take my meds, I'm fine. I had my meds all through my pregnancy, so I knew they were safe. They were being regulated by my doctor, and I knew, there were no side effects. But in regards to after the surrogacy and how I coped and everything like that, it didn't make a difference, because this was something I wanted to do. And all through my counselling, I made a point of saying, if I knew that my depression and medicine was going to be an issue, I wouldn't have even thought of doing it. So I wouldn't have put myself in that position if I knew it was going to rock the boat, so to speak. So yeah, it's never been an issue.
And Carrie-Anne, you've had an experience with postnatal depression in the past, and have been open about experiencing after Violeta's birth. So what made you go through all that again, and having Violet as a sibling and possibly putting your mental health at risk again this time?
Originally, I knew that I suffered postnatal depression with both our own children. However, it wasn't quite as bad as it was with the surrogate child last year. So this time, the husband has insisted on being present prior to the delivery. And 1 month after, possibly.
They're nodding.
It's really nodding. I'm great. Yeah, and the doctor did put me on a mental health plan at the time. However, when we went to the hospital the other week, we flagged it with the doctors there, and they're just actually rang just last week a psychologist to arrange an appointment for me to go in and see them probably a few months earlier, and just see what they can do in terms of alleviating postnatal depression.
So do you have any advice for surrogates who are possibly at risk of postnatal depression or find themselves with postnatal depression afterwards?
Definitely speak to your GP, don't wait till it's too late. And if you are, if you do suffer from postnatal depression, if you're on medication, or you would imagine, or speak to someone. Very good
Can
advice.
I just say something here? In regards to postnatal depression, I didn't have it, but I found a couple of months afterwards, I had what I deemed as, it was bringing up all the memories of giving up my son for adoption, which was quite good for me because I actually had to address them. So in the long run, it was a good thing for me. Sorry.
Even childbirth itself can obviously bring up issues in the past. So. Yeah, and you talk to people and you got help from that?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so we all know Carrie-Anne's pregnant again. Chrissy or Amy, would you consider doing it again?
No. only in that I think I'm just too old to go to do it all again. And so poor old the other Chrissy, who I was a surrogate for, she needs to find someone else. She knows that. Not because it was a bad experience, purely just because of no.
Maybe. At the moment, because I had when your hips become
dysplasia.
With this pregnancy. So I'm trying to sort that out at the moment. So possibly, I'll leave it open. I think my husband will be the telling point, but he can put up with me again.
That's very true. They're the ones that have to put up with us. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously communication plays a big role in the surrogacy process. And something that I found I was doing through my surrogacies was that I would gloss over difficult parts of the surrogacy process in the beginning. So instead of telling my IPs that I was crippled with morning sickness, I was just telling them I'd have an off day that day. Did any of you find that you were doing a similar thing, sort of hiding the harder parts from your IPs?
No, I didn't hide anything. I kept texting Christy, telling her every time I was up going to the toilet during the night. When I vomit at work, I sent her a text 4 times today. So I was very open, and she heard every whinge and every complaint, which was good. She needed to hear it.
Yeah. And Amy?
During the start, yes, I was probably glossing over a bit, but then towards the middle, I think my husband got sick of me, so I had to tell someone, and then it became a bit of a joke between us. So yeah, it was kind of good.
Carrie-Anne?
I don't believe my IPs knew just how bad I suffered at the end with postnatal depression. However, they will know this time.
Okay, so what did you all find was the most stressful part of the process?
For me, all my births have been natural. For me, it was finding right at the very end that the baby was actually breech, and I had to come to terms with having a C-section. I'm very sort of just let things happen. So for me, it was getting my head around it, and then more recovering from the C-section. I felt, I don't know, it took a bit longer than normal, which I wasn't used to. I was used to leaving straight after I'd given birth and going home, you know. So it was just getting my head around that, and once I'd got my head around that, it was okay. But that was a bit hard for me to digest. So, but now I've got my own little battle scar, so it's a bit special.
I probably found once we were pregnant, everything was fine. We really didn't have too many dramas. I knew I was having a Caesar, was fine, but there was the process, like just as you started to get towards the end of the number of embryos that our couple of friends had, and the pressure that not that they ever put any pressure on me, knowing, you know, that but you still, I found that was harder as we got closer. But.
I guess the public don't really understand the surrogate's motivation and whatnot, so they don't understand how they can hand over a baby, and they feel like that would be the hardest part of the process, but it's not.
No, it's
no, getting pregnant's usually. Yeah. Carrie-Anne, did you find anything different?
Obviously depression at the end, and probably feeling or looking pregnant still 4 or 5 months later. And often, it was just the other day actually, it was ironic, I went to the BP service station, and the man in there who's about 65 or 70, he said, "Oh, how's your baby going?" And I said, "What baby?" He said, "Didn't you have?" "Oh, yes, that baby. Yeah, she's great. Thank you."
You get some very odd looks, and then you have to explain it, and they're like, "Oh, I thought that was illegal." No.
The accountant the other week, when he was going through the age of our children, I worked next door to the accountant. So he said, "Didn't you have a baby last year?" Like, yes, but that wasn't mine. Okay, so we don't put that baby down now.
And having to explain yourself all the time, even to like the checkout chick. Sometimes it's easy just to go, "Yes, it's due, and so and so, whatever."
But sometimes I find you've got to be careful, because if you see them later, they ask how the baby is.
Yeah.
You're like, well, do I keep this going? So do you have any advice for any potential surrogates?
I think have faith in your surrogate, and have faith that you'll find someone to help you. There's a lot more women out there that think in the way we do, and you can bet your bottom dollar that all of us that have been a surrogate advocate it, and, you know, tell as many people as we can and encourage people. So just have faith, basically, that something magical will happen. There's someone out there for everyone, really.
Yeah. Christy, is there anything you would?
No, maybe that is the communication thing. Making sure that
communication.
That's probably just the most important thing.
Yeah, stay completely open.
Being open. Do we have any questions from the audience?
How did you, sorry, I have got children. If you had IPs that had previously had losses and whatnot, how did you cope with the not excitement bit?
So I guess intended parents are a bit more cautious,
yes.
You know, waiting for milestones
So
and whatnot.
when I felt pregnant, not so much the last one, but the 3 before that, it was known to everyone within a few days. It was exciting. Okay, we're going to this and we're going to that. How do you cope with these people that sort of go, "Oh, that's really good," and don't say anything else?
So
I actually had a hard time with that, because at the ultrasounds and things like that, I wanted her to be excited, and I wanted her to, you know, but I think it was a cautious excitement because of the losses as well. We understand that, but we also want you to experience this pregnancy as well. And we do understand that sometimes it's hard to, but we've got to get our head around that, to understand that as well, that, you're cautiously excited to look at this ultrasound even though the baby's 16 weeks, but because of the past, it's hard, and that's what I found hard, being not so much being sympathetic, I could sympathise, but understanding, and, they are excited, but they're not.
They're being cautious because they're
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yep.
Was there anything that you felt resentment about throughout the whole process?
Any resentment through the whole process? think I can answer just as a previous surrogate as well. As I mentioned, there's certain things that I glossed over, and I think it got to the point where I was really sick or I was on bed rest, and I just felt that I wasn't getting, enough recognition for that. But it was because I wasn't telling them how I was feeling. So I guess that there kind of made me feel a bit of resentment, but it was my own fault. It wasn't on anyone else's part.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And like after a Caesar, I almost felt abandoned because my husband only had 2 days off work, and then I ended up having to drive the kids around. And I understood, but yeah, again, I would say it's down to communication. It's such a
And especially afterwards, as you said, you had the Caesar, you were recovering, but they had their baby.
Absolutely, and I understood that, I knew that, but again, I
still does
felt a bit
mind,
like, well, I need help, and where's my help, so yeah. But again, communication with a capital C.
Yeah. You have a question?
My wife and I have gone through a lot in the last 10 years, obviously trying to get her a child. There's a lot of support for the women out there, but I guess there hasn't been for me as such. I was wondering how your partners go through this and what support for them.
We do actually have a session at 4 o'clock that's got Carrie Ann and my husband on the panel, but how would you like to answer that question?
I try to be very supportive of him because it wasn't just my decision to be a surrogate, it was his as well. But I did what I could, where I could.
I just take over, so, look, with my husband, when I first met him, it wasn't long after I signed over the baby for adoption, and I knew that when I gave that baby over that this was something I wanted to do. So when I did met him and knew that we had a future together, I actually said to him, if we have kids and whatever, this is what I want to do. If you're not happy with that, I can't be with you. That was a huge factor. This was something I was going to do. In the end, I knew it had become legal and whatnot. And he agreed with me. And, over the years, I've always sort of reminded him. And when we had our last daughter, I said, right, well, now you need to go have your vasectomy, which he did quite happily. And he became excited for my IPs, and he followed it along. And even when we went to have our first transfer and the embryo wasn't viable, so we couldn't have it, and I told Andrew, my husband, and he goes, oh, well, you tell them we'll do traditional too, they really need a baby, they really need a baby. So he got into it as well, The more he got to know them, the more desperate he was to have this baby for them too. So, yeah.
I think the husbands are kind of the silent partners in this situation, but they actually play quite a large role.
Huge.
In the whole thing.
Because they have to put up with that bitching.
Yeah, and it is different because when it's your own pregnancy, like my previous one, it's like a complaint no matter what. And this is slightly different. So I probably did complain to the IPs more than I did to my own husband about it because I felt so that was. He was having to have a driver.
Yeah. Well, support for your husband is a big thing because they bend over backwards for you to make this possible, and you've got to give it to them. They take it.
One more question? No, go for it. Yeah.
I think it's really important that throughout our process we said that it's just as much about my husband as it is about me being a surrogate, because there's extra responsibilities that he's also taking on when it comes to taking care of the kids or my head in the toilet and things like that. But I think on the flip side, it's also really important for the surrogate to have a relationship with the intended father for a heterosexual couple. I never anticipated in my entire life that I'd be talking to another man about my cycles and my uterus and everything like that. But then, my husband and my IF, they have a relationship, and they're at the moment taking care of our kids while myself and I are here. And so I think that men in this role play, in this arena, I guess, play a really important role, both from a surrogate's partner's perspective and also an intended father's perspective. And if you look at it as a team and working cohesively as a team, it can work really well when everyone's on the same page.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much.